Hey everyone, and welcome back to Revenge with Jason. To all our viewers across America, Europe, Asia, and beyond, thank you for being part of our worldwide community. We hope you enjoy today's story. So let's dive in. My name is Lisa Thornton. I was standing outside conference room B when I read the message from my general manager. Lisa, meet me now. No greeting, no subject, just that. The hallway was unusually quiet for a Wednesday. Fluorescent lights buzzed faintly overhead. I opened the door, expecting another budget cut conversation or vendor audit debrief. But he was already standing, not sitting, holding a piece of paper in one hand and his phone in the other like he had somewhere better to be. He didn't ask me to sit. He didn't even look at me when he said it. Lisa, after 17 years, your salary is too high for your contribution. Then, as if reading off a script, your email access is already disabled. Just like that, no warning, no meeting with HR, no performance review, not even a transition period. It was surgical. I didn't ask why. I didn't protest. I didn't cry. I just looked at the navy carpet for a second, adjusted my blazer, and said, "Thank you for the experience." Then I walked out, calm, composed, almost robotic. But inside, my mind was cracking into sharp little pieces because I knew something was wrong, deeply wrong. Not just with the way they let me go, but with why. You don't remove a senior financial controller, revoke system access, and lock out 17 years of institutional knowledge in less than 10 minutes unless you're hiding something. I drove home in silence, no music, just the sound of the blinker ticking as I sat through a red light that turned green and back again. By the time I reached my apartment, my laptop wouldn't boot, office credentials revoked, cloud access denied. But my personal inbox had one unread message from a name I hadn't seen in years. "Lisa, we need to talk. It's about the Q2 adjustments. You were right." No signature, no attachments. Sent at 3:02 a.m. That night, I poured a glass of wine and stared at the message for almost an hour. Q2 adjustments? I hadn't touched Q2 in months. Vaughn took over that reporting when we split the divisions last spring. I had questions, but the thing about this world is people don't answer direct questions. They deflect, delay, distract. "Still," I replied, just one line. What exactly was I right about? The response came within 5 minutes. Vendor 4829, payments without documentation, start there. Vendor 4829. My pulse slowed. I remembered that number. I remembered flagging it. Repeated vendor payments logged across multiple subsidiaries, no matching contracts. I brought it up to Vaughn once, months ago. He brushed it off as a temporary vendor consolidation issue, but he never let me follow up, said he'd handle it himself. My hands were trembling now, not from fear, but from something colder. Calculation. They didn't fire me because I was expensive. They fired me because I knew something, and someone just confirmed it. If you're enjoying the story so far, don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe to the channel for more slow burn thrillers like this. Your email access is already disabled. I hadn't even told my husband, Craig, about what happened. He was still asleep when I left the apartment, tie half knotted on the bathroom counter, coffee machine blinking red. I told myself I needed air, but the truth was, I needed answers. My car practically drove itself to the old office campus, not the main HQ, but the satellite building we used for archives and temporary teams. Security was light there. I still had an old access badge. It was supposed to be deactivated, but when I swiped it, the light turned green. They hadn't fully wiped me out yet. The third floor smelled of stale carpet and dust. I used to joke this place looked like the kind of office where secrets come to die. Today, it felt like a crime scene. I found a workstation, one of the few that hadn't been cleared out. No login access, of course, but the shared printer tray, full. I flipped through a few pages, mostly shipping documents, audit logs, team memos, nothing useful, until I saw it. A wire transfer confirmation from a subsidiary office in Ontario. Amount, $118,400. Payee, vendor 4829. Description, consulting, emergency procurement. No signature, no invoice, no approval trail, just a transfer timestamped during Q2. I sat down in the swivel chair, heart racing. They weren't just hiding something, they were actively moving money under fake descriptions, and someone was helping them. I snapped a photo with my phone. Then I heard footsteps. I froze. They stopped just around the corner, then started again, slower this time. Not hurried, not random, like someone who knew where they were going. I quietly slipped the document back, stood up, and stepped into the hallway like I had every right to be there. It was Vaughn, our director of finance. He looked as surprised as I was, but only for half a second. "Lisa," he said, eyebrows raised. "I thought you'd left." "Morning," I said evenly. "I had some personal files I needed to collect. Thought I'd grab them before my access completely shuts down." His eyes darted to the printer room. "Right," he said. "HR usually handles that, but sure, just don't spend too long here, all right?" His tone was calm, but his posture was tight, like he didn't know what I'd seen, but feared I'd seen something. "I'll be out in 5, I said with a polite smile. He nodded and walked past me, but as he did, I noticed something he didn't mean for me to see, a paper folder tucked under his arm. The label read, "Vendor Audits, Internal Use Only." He was moving evidence, and I was now officially a problem. By the time I got back to my car, my hands were ice cold. I sat in the driver's seat for 10 whole minutes without turning the engine on, staring at the photo I took of the wire transfer. Vendor 4829 wasn't just an oversight, it was a leak, a backdoor someone was using, possibly for months, to move large amounts of money off the books. And the fact that Vaughn had a physical folder marked internal use only told me something else. This wasn't sloppy embezzlement. It was structured, organized, and protected. I couldn't go to HR. They already locked me out. IT? Same story. Craig, my husband, was an attorney, but even he couldn't do anything without putting me in the line of fire. Whistleblowing in our industry didn't come with protection, it came with blacklists. So I did what every rational person in corporate finance would do when faced with a truth that could destroy reputations. I opened an old spreadsheet. I still had access to some downloaded reports from a quarterly review Vaughn once asked me to prep last spring. Back then, I didn't question why I was asked to reconcile payments for subsidiaries we weren't supposed to be overseeing anymore. But now, those files were gold. That's when I saw it. A pattern. Every month, a new vendor ID, but the same exact bank account tied to the transfer. Only the names changed. Nortec Consulting, Alliance Logistics, Zelva Partners, all fake. Shell vendors, designed to pass internal checks just long enough for the money to disappear. And in the middle of all of it, one consistent approver. K. Vaughn. I leaned back in my chair, heart thudding against my ribs. Vaughn wasn't just involved, he was the architect. And then, like clockwork, my phone buzzed. Private number. No caller ID. I hesitated, then answered. There was a pause. Then a voice I hadn't heard in years, soft, calm, but direct. "Lisa, it's Andrew. Andrew Reese, former CFO. He retired 18 months ago, mid-year, citing health reasons. No scandal, no noise, just gone." "I've been watching the filings," he said. "The numbers don't make sense. I thought maybe I was getting paranoid, but when I heard what they did to you..." He let the sentence hang. I swallowed hard. "Why me?" "Because you were close. Vaughn knew you flagged vendor 4829. He was there when you pulled the report last March." "You knew about this all along?" I asked, voice tightening. I suspected, but I needed someone still on the inside, someone they wouldn't see coming. I stood, pacing. "Well, they saw me coming. They fired me." "Which is exactly why you're the only one who can do this now." I stopped pacing. "Do what exactly?" There was another pause. Then Andrew said, "Blow the whole thing open." I didn't respond, because in that moment I felt it, the shift. This wasn't just about my job anymore. This was about choosing between walking away quietly or becoming a threat. And something told me Vaughn had already decided I was the latter. Not a single minute. I lay there next to Craig, listening to his slow, even breaths, staring at the dark ceiling, while my mind raced with numbers, timelines, names. Every passing hour deepened one truth. This was bigger than I'd thought. By 5 a.m., I was dressed and out the door. I didn't tell Craig where I was going. I just said I needed space. What I needed was leverage, and I knew exactly where to start. Back when I was still trusted, I had set up a personal external drive, not to steal data, just to back up large reconciliations and review sheets that slowed down the VPN. It had years of old audit files, internal control docs, and embedded comment histories. If Vaughn had forged or covered his tracks in the core system, he might have missed what lived in the drafts. I retrieved the drive from my desk drawer, buried under old manuals and spare cables, connected it, waited. It spun to life, and within 5 minutes I had it, a March reconciliation sheet. Comments from Vaughn himself requesting I move the flagged entries from vendor 4829 to other expenses consulting. He didn't delete the entries. He relabeled them. But there was something else. A version history log showed the document had been accessed 2 weeks ago. After I was fired, I wasn't just being watched, I was being scrubbed. Someone inside was cleaning up, retroactively, and that meant they weren't finished. Whatever they were funneling money for, it was still active. My phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. No name, no greeting. "Stop digging. You got your severance. Let it go." I stared at the screen. Calmly, rationally. Like Daniel, our former audit lead, used to say, always look at a threat like a transaction. What are they trying to buy with fear? The answer was simple. Silence. But they'd miscalculated. Severance was a payout for closure. What they'd done to me was a cover-up. I texted Andrew. "You were right. There's more. I have the metadata. I have Vaughn's annotations." His reply came seconds later. "Meet me, discreetly, Midtown Cafe, back booth, 11 a.m. I almost replied with, "Are you sure that's safe?" But I didn't. I just got in my car and drove. It was raining by the time I reached Midtown. I walked in soaked, my drive wrapped in plastic in my bag, heart pounding like a drum. Andrew was already seated. Plain clothes, baseball cap. He looked older, thinner, but his eyes were alert. "Don't look around," he said softly, sliding a coffee across the table. "We may not be alone." I sat. He opened a folder and pushed it toward me. Inside were printed emails, from Vaughn to legal counsel. Subject: Internal Escalation Protocol, Lisa T. "They're building a case against you," Andrew whispered. "They're going to say you misused access, that you pulled files without authorization after termination." My breath caught. "They're trying to flip the narrative," I muttered. Andrew nodded. "Unless you flip it first." I opened my bag, pulled out the drive. His eyes widened. "You sure it's all there?" "I'm sure enough to destroy someone." He leaned in. "Then it's time to decide, Lisa. Are you walking away, or are you taking them down?" I looked at the cafe window, and that's when I saw him. Vaughn, across the street, staring straight at me. He wasn't hiding anymore. For a full 3 seconds, neither of us moved. Vaughn stood across the street, arms crossed, no umbrella, rain soaking through his pressed shirt. He didn't try to hide. He just looked at me, like a man who had run out of subtlety and was about to switch to force. Andrew didn't turn around. "He's here, isn't he?" I nodded. "He's bluffing," Andrew said calmly. "He's not stupid enough to make a move in public." I wasn't so sure. I turned my focus back to the drive in my hand. This little device, cold, damp, shaking slightly in my fingers, had the power to either burn my life to the ground or make me bulletproof. It wasn't just Vaughn's name in those comments. There were others, directors, committee members, even someone from compliance. All of them had signed off on variations of the same fraudulent line items. Vendor 4829 was just the beginning. But the real twist, my name was on those approvals too. Not because I signed off, but because the metadata showed final editor Lisa T. They were going to make me the fall. Andrew saw the panic flicker across my face. "You didn't edit those entries, did you?" he asked. I shook my head. "Number never." "Then we prove it. Timestamp history, version control. If they forged it, we can trace it." "But they'll claim I accessed files after my termination," I whispered. "They've already planted that." Andrew leaned closer. Which is why you're not going to hand that drive to legal. I blinked. Then what? You're going to leak it. Silence. He let the words settle. To whom? I asked. SEC and the press, but not from you. From an anonymous digital relay. I know someone. My pulse kicked up again. This will ruin them, I said. No, Andrew replied. This will expose them. What ruins them is the truth. Outside, Vaughn pulled out his phone, typed something. A moment later, my phone buzzed. You've made your choice. Enjoy what comes next. I showed it to Andrew. He just nodded. We left separately. I took the side exit through the alley, walked 2 blocks in the rain before hailing a cab. By the time I got home, Craig was pacing the living room. Lisa, he said, where were you? Someone from your old company called. Some legal person. They said, I held up a hand. Craig, I need to tell you something, and it's going to sound insane, but you need to believe me. I told him everything. The shell vendors, the doctored spreadsheets, Vaughn, the threats, Andrew. His face drained. He sat slowly on the couch. My God, he whispered, you're not safe, Lisa. I know, I said, but I'm not running. That night, I uploaded everything to the secure relay Andrew gave me. It took less than 2 hours for it to hit inboxes across 3 continents, and less than 48 hours for the internal memo to leak. Effective immediately, Kevin Vaughn has stepped down from his role pending investigation into accounting irregularities. But that wasn't the end. A week later, I received a letter, unsigned, no return address. Inside was a USB on it, surveillance footage, of me in the satellite office the morning after I was fired, which meant someone else had been watching too, and that someone was still out there, waiting. Because in the corporate world, truth doesn't always set you free. Sometimes it puts a target on your back. If this story gripped you, like, share, comment, and subscribe to the channel. Because sometimes revenge doesn't come in fire, it comes in forensic accounting.